Heading into the 2023 season, the Lions have some pretty high expectations. They got the opening game against KC. They finished last season going 8-2 after starting 1-6, finished with a winning record. There's a lot of expectations for the Lions. However, just because there's expectations doesn't always mean that your team is going to perform. The Lions could very well be terrible next year, do really bad, and also it's the Lions. You really can't trust any expectations or anything with the Lions whatsoever. So in this video, we're looking at what are the biggest problems or biggest questions for the Lions heading into this upcoming season. What parts of the Lions game are we not 100% sold on, or what parts of this team are we worried about? Like, if this doesn't work out, this team might not be able to win that many games. The first thing we'll talk about, it's a pretty easy one, we'll start light, is will the Lions draft picks pan out? Now, I'm not too worried about this one, but people definitely are, and it is kind of something to worry about as it caused a lot of commotion when this happened. With the Lions' 2 first-round picks, they selected Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama, and Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa, and it caused a lot of commotion because people felt like the Lions shouldn't have picked those positions that high in the draft. Those weren't good picks. Even Lions fans were, Brad Holmes doesn't know what he's doing. I personally think that Jahmyr Gibbs will pan out to be a great running back. He's going to be super solid, and that Jack Campbell is going to be a great defender, especially in coverage. I think they're both going to be great, but it's a big question. Will these picks pan out? Because if they don't, going to be a lot of backlash for the Lions. It's going to be bad for the team. They're only going to have one running back then if Jahmyr Gibbs is bad or gets hurt or is injury prone. So there's a little bit of questions around, will those first 2 picks pan out? I think they will, but people have their doubts. The next big question for the Lions, and this one I think is pretty serious, is can the Lions stop the run? Can their inner defensive line be strong enough? We all saw the heartbreaking Panthers game. The Lions only added 1 nose tackle from the draft. They didn't really sign anyone for the inner defensive line. So that's one struggle that I'm a little worried about heading into this season is, can the inner defensive line be strong enough to prevent long runs, explosive runs from other teams, and stop the run and also put pressures on the quarterback? We're pretty strong on the outside, obviously, but that inner defensive line, I'm a little worried against the run. And with the IDL, Alim McNeill is headed into his 3rd year in the league, 3rd year with the Lions, and people think that he might be due for a breakout year, or he might break out this upcoming season. He improved a lot throughout last season. He's a pretty good player, but it's just, you really got to hope that either he plays super well or the whole IDL together just kind of comes together and improves at least a decent amount, because the Lions need to stop the run. I also think I might be over exaggerating how bad the Lions run defense is a little bit. You know, they had their ups and downs last season. Early on, they were a lot worse. You know, they were the youngest team in the league. Obviously, they weren't going to be working well together right off the bat. And they improved throughout the season. They had, you know, their high moments. They shut down Saquon Barkley the weekend before Thanksgiving away. That was amazing. I think a lot of people just think about that Carolina game and how, or at least I do, just how we could not stop them. And, you know, I think that game, that was just maybe an outlier, but it was pretty bad throughout the whole season. Hopefully we just see some good improvement. The next big thing the Lions are going to have to be looking at is injuries. Can the Lions stay healthy? We see a lot of good teams face a lot of injuries, and before the playoffs or at the beginning of the playoffs, they're not really a real contender due to so many injuries. And that's one thing the Lions kind of struggled with last season. We saw consistent defensive line injuries, offensive line injuries, some in the secondary. We saw Tracy Walker go down for the rest of the season. That really sucked. We saw a lot of injuries with DeAndre Swift. It's an important thing for the Lions to stay healthy, because if they can't, if there's a consistent defensive line, offensive line, just injuries throughout the team, it's going to hinder their chances of winning the division, making the playoffs, even winning a playoff game. In February, the Lions hired a new director of player health and performance, Brett Fisher. He was with the Cardinals for 15 years. He seems like a pretty solid dude. Hopefully he improves the Lions' physical therapy, their recovery, their preparation. And hopefully the Lions, maybe with this move, can avoid a lot of future injuries, because they were a pretty injured team last season. The next question I'm going to talk about, the next big thing, I think the next concern for the Lions upcoming season, I would say, is the quarterback situation. People thought when Hendon Hooker was drafted that he was going to replace Goff, which is crazy, but there's still a little bit of can Goff, is he the man? Is he the man for Detroit? Can he play at a high level like he did last year another year? I think he will, but there's still chances that Goff could regress or not play as well. He's been in the league for a while. He's played winning football during the regular season. He's made it to a Super Bowl. I don't think his Super Bowl run was that memorable. He didn't play out of his mind in the playoffs, but he's had a lot of regular season success. But can Goff play at a high level? We saw the 360 nearly intercepted throw on Thanksgiving. That just blows my mind. I can't believe that happened. But Goff is kind of known for making some silly mistakes sometimes, I think, and I love Goff. He's one of my favorite players on the team, but can he play at a high level? Can he be our guy? Because if we don't have a strong quarterback, the Lions season is screwed. And with how training camp is going, the backup quarterbacks are not performing, so Goff needs to perform. I think he will, but if he doesn't, those were all my main concerns going into this season. I really am not too worried about most of them. The biggest one for me, or the main ones I'm worried about, is IDL. Hopefully we can stop the run, and hopefully the defense just meshes together. There's a lot of talent there in the secondary with Gardner Johnson, Mosley, Kirby Joseph going into his second year. Tracy Walker is going to be back. There's a lot of talent there. Hopefully they can all mesh together. I'm not really too worried about that. Mainly just the defensive line and stopping the run. And then former GM for the Saints and Dolphins, Randy Mueller, he recently, like a month ago, talked about his concerns for the Lions upcoming season. So I'm going to read there's two of them. I'm going to read those for you. His first of two concerns is the Jahmyr Gibbs move. Drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, a running back, early in the draft and then trading away DeAndre Swift. He talked about how DeAndre Swift kind of seems like he's a little bit more valuable now that he's on the Eagles. He thinks he could have maybe had a breakout year next year. I honestly like getting rid of DeAndre Swift. I mean, I love DeAndre Swift a ton, but the injuries and the inconsistency, and he was a good player, but I would 100% rather have Jahmyr Gibbs rather than have DeAndre Swift and someone else we could have drafted with our 12th pick. I would 100% rather have Jahmyr Gibbs than DeAndre Swift. I could see DeAndre Swift being good with the Eagles, but I don't see his value rising as much as maybe Mueller thought it did, or I'm not really sure. I could see DeAndre Swift being a pretty solid player, but I don't see him exploding, having a breakout year. I just see him being an average running back for the next few years. And then his second concern was just talking about the defense as a whole, which I didn't really agree with. I don't really like him just saying the defense wasn't that good and tossing out some statistics, because we all know the Lions defense during the second half of the season was a lot stronger. One of the better defenses in the league. I believe a top half throughout the last few games of the season, especially if you take out the Panthers game. But the Lions were strong, and their secondary was super young and still strong. And I do think adding a few veterans does kind of solve that issue. And Tracy Walker is going to be back. And the Lions are also strong on the edge with Hutchinson and Houston. The main problem, again, is just interior defensive line, and additionally the Lions really struggled with short field coverage, and that's one thing that Jack Campbell is going to be able to help with. So those are what I think the biggest problems are, or concerns heading into the upcoming season for the Lions. Hopefully everything works out. I have high expectations for the Lions. Let me know if you think I missed some concern or question about the upcoming season, the upcoming team. And that's going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed my content, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. And once again, as always, thanks for watching.